As an American workforce, can I ask you a fundamentally important question? Are you motivated today to give your boss 100% effort in everything you do at work? And do you trust the direction your organization is heading? Well, if we listen to the majority of Americans today, the answer to that question is a resounding no. Today's corporate leader is losing trust and conviction in the people which they are charged in serving to lead them to a direction of workplace prosperity. According to my friends over at Gallup, only 21% of today's workforce believes that they have full faith and confidence in the direction that their leaders and bosses are taking the direction of their organization at work, which is a 3% decline compared to 2019. So the question now becomes, how can leaders get their mojo back and convince those that they are in charge of leading that they have the best interest of themselves and the organization at heart? For some answers, I want to enlist the expertise and advice of my friend Reid. He describes himself as a living miracle. His inspirational story of survival is the foundation for the important message he delivers on the transformation of trust. In 2019, he was struck down by an acute aortic dissection, which most medical professionals told him that should have ended his life. Instead, it inspired a newfound effort to love people, give generously, be grateful, and make a meaningful difference. Today, Roy helps entrepreneurs, leaders, and CEOs transition from frustrated, overwhelmed, and weary to the point of low trust relationships or distrust in themselves to a state of confidence, satisfaction, and a state of encouragement to improve their health, well-being, and performance, both personally and professionally. As an executive coach, he helps them to understand the importance of creating and fostering resilient teams that are courageous, which promote a trustworthy culture in order to maximize production and morale all at the same time. And Reid, join me this week to tell me more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Absolutely. So, Roy, if you're ready, my friend, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to learn about your journey professionally and everything in between, my friend. Great to see you, and happy Monday to you, my friend.
Thank you. You too. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, just before we dive into your life and experience, my friend, I'm also curious to ask you, as we come up to the end of the year, my friend, I'm a big believer in the power of reflection, my friend. So as we sort of around the bend to the end of 2024, I'm wondering, how reflective you are on the year and your accomplishment and what you're most looking forward to in the year ahead, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
I appreciate the opportunity to answer that question. I've been reflecting a lot over the last few weeks. I have been richly blessed this year to work with some phenomenal people and organizations in a variety of different settings. My primary work is in helping leaders and organizations build high trust relationships and high trust cultures through my program, the Trust Transformation. I was fortunate enough to release a book this year and am seeing that start to take off a little bit and people really starting to dive in to the ideas and the concepts that we brought to the market. And I'm looking forward in 2025 to create more access for people to be able to experience that, to build a platform that allows people to take part in courses and conversations to help enhance, build, and strengthen their relationships. And most importantly, I'm looking forward to being able to continue this journey with my wife, who is a licensed mental health counselor and another entrepreneur, just opened her practice this year, and carry on that journey to see where and how we can help people in their relationships with themselves, their families, their businesses, and others.
Yeah, absolutely. And Roy, I know that 2019 was an interesting time for you, my friend, as we dive into your life story and what makes you who you are, my friend. I know you were going through some health challenges that you were told that you weren't supposed to recover from, my friend. So I'm wondering your thoughts on the power of resilience and how you got through your health journey as well, my friend.
I appreciate that too. I look forward to any opportunity to share my story. And as you mentioned, in 2019, I suffered what's called an acute aortic dissection. For me, it was acute in the sense that it just all of a sudden came on. And what a dissection is, it's your heart splitting open. So woke up in the middle of the night with this terrible pain, rushed to the hospital. I was fortunate that the nursing team and the doctors recognized it, got me to surgery, 6 hours of surgery, Kevin, to essentially replace the entire upper arch of my aorta. And doctors say that when this hits someone, there's only a 2 to 5% chance of survival. And it's all about timing, getting to the right care at the right time and getting that fixed. And so we, again, fortunate to have hit all of those things. I tell people there was a lot of mission, great medicine, and a few miracles sprinkled in to ensure everything happened the right way. I spent the next month in the hospital. I was put into a coma for a week of that time, and for that period, nobody really knew what the outcome was going to be. So when I woke up with all my faculties, shocked a lot of people, and began my long journey. And it was really through that experience too, Kevin, that I really got to experience what it meant to build new trust with myself, learning to live life in a different way with my family, recognizing that I had this second chance to do it better as a father, as a husband, as a friend, as a colleague, and then get back to work at a time where all of us got tested. My first day back to work full time with post-surgery and post-second surgery was March of 2020, when the whole world was going through a health crisis. And so I believe that prepared me mentally, spiritually, and physically to see life differently, experience life in a way that gave me perspective on how people were feeling and challenged during that time. And as I've said to so many people, it reset my purpose really to four things: to love people, to be grateful, to give generously, and to make a difference with whatever I have an opportunity to get involved with.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Roy, I'm a huge believer in the fact that when it comes to priorities, we make a time for the things that we prioritize, my friend. So I'm curious, how has your perspective on the word priorities and perspective evolved over time? What are your thoughts there?
I love this question, and it goes to the whole resilience thing too, right? By learning to trust myself at a different way, by building more meaningful and deeper relationships with people, that pours into this reservoir that we have of resilience. And so as I've moved forward, the things that I prioritize are much more meaningful, I believe. And so, first and foremost, I prioritize my day with time in the mornings to reflect, to exercise, to pour into the things that are going to pour into me as a person, to really work on the things like my integrity, being consistent in the things that I'm doing, challenging myself to do things in ways that maybe I'm not so comfortable doing, but need to move to that next space. And so creating those times of consistency, those times of diving into what's most important and doing the hard work that really turns the needle and makes things go better, faster, and more consistent in the day that we do. But it also too means pouring into the relationships that we have. That is the key to everything. Both those relationships in our family, in our personal life, and those that we have in our work and professional life. And it can't be one at the expense of the other, because they have to be seen as a whole person, whole picture experience in what we do.
Yeah, and Roy, I know professionally now that you help CEOs and entrepreneurs and other leaders transition rather from feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, and worried from the pain to flow trust relationships. You really help them build their self-esteem and become more confident and satisfied, my friend. So tell me about your work and how it fills your cup, my friend.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I was working for a large healthcare system when developing the current version of the trust transformation, and had the opportunity to see thousands of employees go through it individually and find that resilience or find that strength or find that deeper meaning in their relationships. And so in 2022, I dug deep and took a look at where it was and realized it was time to expand this opportunity for people and really go in and work with leaders and organizations to help them alleviate the pains of a low trust culture, or even take a good culture and make it so much better. So I spend most of my time working with leaders through training their leadership teams, bringing that concept into the organization itself, and then working as an executive coach to help ensure that it stays, that it sticks, and that it carries forward. The outcome of a training program is for that leadership team to create a trust contract among themselves. And so as you think about building a culture on your mission, your vision, your values, your service standards, right alongside of that is this tool we develop and co-create called your trust contract. And it's a source of both inspiration and accountability to say, this is how we're going to prioritize high trust relationships individually and organizationally.
Yeah, absolutely. And Roy, tell me, what do you think is the key to creating a great organizational culture?
You know, Kevin, one word that comes to mind, and it really is a word that runs through the trust transformation, is intentionality. Having an intentional focus on it, not letting it be something that arises by chance, but saying we're going to do these things on a regular basis to ensure that we have a culture where people feel safe, step up, do the work, get it done, and take chances as it relates to achieving our mission and our goals together. And leaders that lean into that idea, that lean into that idea of intention and taking responsibility for the relationships, always get better results.
Yeah, and when it comes to building a corporate culture or improving your own life, I'm curious to get your thoughts on the importance of self-reflection in both business and our personal life. How big of a factor do you think that is?
Wow, it's huge. It's huge. That's a great observation because if I'm not willing to ask the hard questions of myself, if I'm not willing to take that time and even subject myself to the opinions and input of other people around me, be accountable to people in my lives that are mentors, that are advisors, formally and informally, then I'm never going to have the full picture of what I can do because we all have blind spots. We all have places in our lives where we become very comfortable doing things a certain way. And those habits, while most are good and we want to feed those, there may be some that aren't. And without self reflection first, and then the accountability that you have to others in your life, you're going to miss those things. And they could become the tripwire or the little thing that turns into a big problem eventually in your personal relationships, in your business relationships, or in your culture.
Yeah, and then Roy, in your judgment, I'm also curious to ask you, how do you think CEOs or business leaders can develop resilient and courageous teams, my friend, that allow or foster a culture of trust where all people are respected and really believe that they're all part of the same mission? What are your thoughts there?
There's a couple of things that come to mind. First of all, as I look at trust as a factor in that, what are some areas that you can cultivate it? You know, when we can create authentic relationships, we can speak into things and exercise candor in those relationships. That's not an easy thing or a natural thing for us to do. And quite frankly, the permission has to be given for people to feel comfortable to both give candid responses and receive candid responses. So what leaders can do is really cultivate a culture where people feel safe speaking up, where people feel safe giving input and advice, and where people feel safe taking risks to improve how that organization works. When those things are present and people feel that they're respected for their opinions, that they're given an opportunity to do that, Kevin, the future is limitless in terms of the opportunities that an organization has to do that. Jim Collins, in his book Good to Great, wrote that the companies that move from that position of good to great are able to confront the brutal facts and to do things and be willing to confront things that others won't.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Roy, I'm also curious to ask you, how do you think the word respect has really been transformed or redefined in today's workplace? What are your thoughts there?
You know, we have gone through so much in the last 5 years. When I think about my own personal journey, but on the heels of that, we had a pandemic and the social unrest, and now a raucous and very difficult political season. And I believe that a simple way to think of respect is that everyone leaves with their dignity. And what I mean by that is people who have respect can have arguments about important issues, can have debates about important issues, but they don't make it personal. They don't turn it into something that attacks the other person, but they're able to have the conversation at a higher level. The more we can do that is critical, because right now we're living through such a polarized time where people are willing to just not talk to others because of what their beliefs are. I believe I'm a much better person the larger that circle is of people that are around me who may not believe the same things that I do. And because I'm going to exercise respect, they feel comfortable coming in, having difficult conversations, confronting important issues.
Yeah, Roy, there's a sign in my office that says that life is a constant game of learning, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And I'm curious to ask you, As leaders, I think it's equally as important when we give the people that were in charge of leading, what I call the autonomy of choice to make their own decisions, because then, they're invested in the process of the organization getting better. So what do you think it means to give employees the autonomy of choice as a leader? What does that mean to you, my friend?
That's a great question, and I don't mean to be a one note song, but here we are back at the crossroads of trust. It really means that you're going to allow that employee to have agency, to be able to lean into the things that they do, that you're going to trust your team to do the things that they've set out to do. I've been very fortunate throughout my career to be in places where I've seen that modeled really well. And I don't know that there's a better one than my more recent role as the corporate communications person for Advent Health, going through the pandemic. Watching leaders at the executive level really lean into the leadership on the front line to make the decisions that were necessary, to do the things that they had to do, and to trust them to be that tip of the spear that our communities needed to provide care and service on a regular basis. And really to be that barometer too, that brought the information in and said, here's how it's changing. Here's the things that we're dealing with now. Here's the resources that we need to achieve and to serve in a way that we've been set up to do so.
Yeah, and Roy, can I also ask you about the importance of infusing folks with disabilities into the workforce? And I'll quickly use myself as an example. So, Roy, I was born with cerebral palsy, and the type of cerebral palsy I have is called spastic quadriplegia, simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. I actually found out at the age of 9, Roy, that I wouldn't be able to walk for the duration of my life because of the severity of my disability. And I've made it my professional mission personally to elevate the need to hire more folks with disabilities, because when I graduated college, Roy, I was rejected by 10 consecutive news directors who told me at the time, when I applied to become a sports reporter because of my disability, they viewed me as a liability because they didn't think I would be supported in the newsroom. So out of college, Roy, it took me 6.5 years to get my first paying job, which ironically was elevating the need to hire people that look like me. So tell me, my friend, what sort of competitive advantage do you think organizational cultures can have if they hire folks with disabilities?
I love your perspective on this, and I so much respect the journey that you're on. And let me share a story, because this doesn't show up in my bio, but it's important, I think, for the context of this conversation. I have spent most of my adult life teaching and training in martial arts, and have a 5th degree black belt in Taekwondo. And one of the most rewarding parts of that journey, Kevin, is working with what we call our Breaking Barriers students. We set up a program designed for and with students from all walks of life who have a variety of different challenges and perceived disabilities. Teaching and training both at a physical level, an emotional or otherwise areas that from most standpoints they might be at a disadvantage. And yet I just had the opportunity less than a month ago to watch one of our students that I've worked with for the last 6 years achieve his instructor status as a 2nd degree black belt. And so I look at your question through the lens of saying it's incredible to invite and really be proactive at engaging people from all different challenging areas to achieve things that that may not be on their radar. Invite them into the opportunities to do things that they may not think they can do. The first week as an instructor, when somebody brings a new student in, it's not easy. They may want to fight whether they want to even do that process. But the cool thing about the culture of that class is that all of those students take ownership in it. And so there's 5 or 6 now that are instructors. There are 10 of them that are black belts. And at every testing, I watch them lead that group and go forward. And so I think an organization does well when they take an opportunity to take a step back and say, how might we make a better opportunity for people who might not fall on our radar, might have certain challenges, but might just do certain things better than anybody else that we currently have in the organization. And so I'm inspired by that. I'm inspired by people that set out to do that. And I look forward to seeing really good examples of that going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I asked you earlier about respect in the workplace, but I also think it's mutually important to ask you about employee engagement and satisfaction. If people aren't happy within the walls of a workplace, they're not motivated to give you their best shot when they clock in for their workday. So I'm curious to ask you about creating a culture of mutual respect between, leadership and management and the employees that they're in charge of leading, because there's an important correlation there, isn't there?
There absolutely is. You'll find that in any organization that has a high degree of engagement with its team members, the performance is better, the retention is going to be better, and people who feel empowered are going to show up ready to do things at just at a higher level altogether. And you look at the brands that are recognized as the best places to work. Those are organizations that have high levels of engagement. You look at the opportunities that people are offered when they come into an organization to do more than just the work, and to feel like that their work has much greater value than just the transactional thing that I get a paycheck for. And I would encourage people to really challenge the status quo on this every day. How much more can we engage our team members? Right now, coming out of the pandemic, workforce is such an instability across nearly every industry. And it's incumbent upon leadership to look at this redefined workforce that we have, where we went through that period of quiet quitting and people are checking out. And in a lot of industries, people are going to leave for the smallest of new incentives, whether it's a little bit more an hour or new benefits provided. So the more you're plugged into people, the more that is a two-way conversation, the more you're going to know, the better you're going to know them, and the more enriching that relationship's going to be between employer and employee.
Yeah, and what do you think it means to redefine the whole notion of paying it forward, whether it be in life and in business? And what do you think it means to live life with positive intentions? What are your thoughts there?
Well, as I mentioned before, after what I went through, and you face your mortality, you ask those questions. And so for me, it lies in those 4 ideas that, we need to be grateful for the things that we do have. It's very easy to get caught up in self-loathing and miserable ideas and the frustration or challenges that we confront during the day. But we woke up that morning. We had oxygen in our lungs, and we had an opportunity to step out and do something. I'll share a brief story. This past weekend, my wife and I were over at the beach. There was a 10-mile event. I do 5Ks and some of the other things that are part of my journey of recovery and keeping my cardio up and going well. And this weekend was a 10-mile event. And I started the event. It was raining. My shoes got wet. I started getting blisters on my feet. And honestly, I had to do something I'd never done at an event before, and that's tap out at mile 5 because I was just in such terrible shape. And I had to listen to my body. And I could get really frustrated with that. I could get really upset with the fact that I didn't get to finish the race. But I'll tell you what, I got up. By the end of the day, it was a beautiful day outside. I got 5 miles in of a good hard walk. I was able to spend the rest of the day with my wife doing some wonderful things. And so that idea of gratitude really feeds into this idea of doing more and giving back and having that outlook that's going to allow you to get through the moment that may not be so good. And so I encourage people to look at that as one perspective, and then to be generous. Just give every day. Walk into the situation with the mindset that I'm here to give. I'm here to do something and contribute something and bring something meaningful to the other people that I'm working with. And, just those two things right there really set the stage for being able to move the needle in being able to give back and to do things that create a sense of engagement with people where they feel loved, they feel respected, they feel acknowledged in all the things that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And my friend, I'm curious to ask you about writing your book, The Trust Transformation, my friend. I know it's a lot of evidence-based material surrounding the topics that we've discussed this morning. But I'm also curious to ask you about the process of writing it and what went into it and what you hope people get out of reading it, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
Well, thank you for that. It's a lifetime journey, my friend. I started working on the concepts in 2007 when I was a partner at a PR firm, and I just wanted to help clients understand that the outcome of your communication should always be increasing the trust that people have in you. And as I carried that forward into my next role at the UCF College of Business, and then landed a position at Advent Health, I found collaborators at Advent Health, especially, who said, "Hey, how do we really explore the impact of trust and relationships, not just on the performance and the outcome of what people do in their work life, but how does it contribute to their health and their well-being?" And so I partnered with Dr. Omira Mansfield, an emergency physician who's the chief medical officer at one of the hospitals in the system. And we really looked at all of it from a whole person standpoint. What's the value and benefit of trust and relationships in your life? And we discovered that research shows that people with strong and resilient relationships, they achieve more, they get more out of life, their health is better over time. And within the book, we cite numerous studies and actually did a little bit of research on our own to show that when you put this information in front of people, they're much more intentional, they're much more engaged, and they have a much higher sense of being trusted and building trust in their relationships. And they get better results as it goes. And as I mentioned earlier, we had the opportunity to launch the training program at Advent Health in 2017. And to date, probably 7,000 people have gone through it. So we've seen so many examples of where people's personal lives or their lives at work or their performance have improved dramatically. And then since I've been working with companies over the last 2 years, I've watched organizations completely change their culture, go through transformations where they've been able to address new issues, take on new projects, grow their business, grow their revenues, or perhaps get better outcomes. Hospitals that have seen complete turnarounds in patient satisfaction or improvements in clinical outcomes. So that part is so rewarding, even as long as it was. I certainly would have loved to have a book out within the first couple of years, but that wasn't the plan. That wasn't the journey. And so we're here today, and we have an opportunity to look at it through this lens of the last 17 years. And I think as we've come out of so many challenging issues, trust is such an important, if not maybe the most important thing that needs to get addressed in our society today.
Yeah, absolutely. And Roy, I'm going to end our conversation with a two-part question, and you can take it any direction you wish, my friend. I'm always a believer in that we have to find our own personal alignment with personal fulfillment and growth, my friend, because it's my belief when it comes to expectations that if you don't pour sort of the internal level of personal expectations for yourself, it's hard to rise to the level of anyone else's. So I'm curious to ask you about aligning our own personal sort of journey of fulfillment with our own goals and expectations. And when you look at your own life and legacy, my friend, how do you want that to be defined?
Wow. I'll give a couple of the obvious answers. That I was a great husband and father and a good friend. I would say that from the things where I've been given a unique set of gifts and a unique opportunity and a great platform to share, that I was both trusted and gave people an opportunity and a mechanism by which they could build the kind of trust in their lives that let them achieve the things that they set out to do, whether it's to build, cultivate, repair, or even restore trust in their relationships, and that they had the insight and the opportunity to become who God intended them to be.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And finally, Roy, tell me, if people want to get connected with you, my friend, what's the best way they can do that?
Got a great website, roywreid.com, where they can find all the information and reach out and connect with me there. And I'd be happy to come out and work with them in a lot of different ways.
Well, fabulous, my friend. I want to thank you for your commitment to transforming both organizational and life cultures, my friend. You're really doing important and groundbreaking work. And I want to thank you for your efforts and for engaging in conversation with me this morning. It's most appreciated.
Yeah, it was a great honor to be here. I appreciate your perspective, and I thank you for your opportunity.